one of our awesome fans did Bob's Burgers, Henry VIII. And she said this one's for the guys. It was delightful. I'll send it to you after this.
Also, I realize I'm a jerk and I still haven't posted that one I made.
Oh my God, yours is so funny. Please post it now.
Well, I still need to make it.
Okay, tomorrow morning. That's going to happen. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Tudor I Hardly Know Her. We have not introed the show yet. I don't want people getting confused.
What am I listening to?
I thought I was listening to My Favorite Murder. I thought I was listening to Nerdist. How'd I get into this historical shit?
Which one's Chris Hardwick?
Whoever, which of you guys can do a better Chris Hardwick impersonation, Jeff or Garrett?
I feel like I had the more nasally, high-pitched voice.
Is that what Chris Hardwick has?
Yeah.
Give me.
Well, then
say
give
points.
us your impression.
Say points.
Points?
No.
That's about the best I can do. Sorry.
Garrett, say points.
Points.
Okay, you both suck. We are not
no,
Nerdist.
That was good.
We are not Nerdist.
I am sad now.
And you know what? We never claimed to be.
No.
Why would we ever want to be Nerdist?
I like being us. We're kicking ass.
I just want the Nerdist money.
I wouldn't mind some Nerdist money. Well, if you like Chris just like get 50 different jobs like Chris Hardwick.
Yeah. I don't really like Chris Hardwick, but he's a damn hard worker.
Do you want to know who really sucks?
Who?
Will Wheaton. I think I've said it before, but I really despise Will Wheaton.
I believe if you watch season 3, episode 12 of Star Trek: The Next Generation, I believe you'll find that Will Wheaton quite redeems himself as a character. I don't know. I pulled that out of my ass. I haven't seen past season 1 of TNG.
I say
Emily,
I could
what
easily
are we
fill
talking
you
about
in.
Today?
No, I already know he sucks. It's cool, guys. He's also got a terrible voice.
Shut up, Wesley.
Ugh, God. Okay.
All right. Enough of bitching about people. Let's bitch about the past people.
Let's shit all over history. Yay!
Hooray! What are we talking about today?
Weddings and marriage and shit.
Ooh. People got married back then?
I
guess Henry did at least 6 times.
Well, Henry did.
He inflated the marriage rate for the next 100 years. Yes.
You know the reason we have that 50% divorce rate on marriages is all because of Henry. He invented that.
Yes, it is. God, that poor dude. I mean, not poor.
Poor dude.
You just
he got 6 women.
I know. Well, one of them.
And half of them while being fat.
I mean, he was rich.
Oh, that just sounds so sad and shallow.
That's why people got married back then. Money. Not kidding. If you were wealthy, that's why you got married.
I like when people are like, romance is dead. I'm like, I don't think it was ever alive back then.
It was. That's why he married Anne Boleyn.
And then he went crazy.
And then he got mad.
Then he.
So my daddy drinks every night before he goes to bed. And then he gets mad. Henry was actually everything made sense for his class. So when you're looking at marriage in this time period, you have to look at the 2 different classes, the wealthy and then the plebes. Because like they all had different reasons for getting married.
I was saying I can't see like many people in the lower class having other reasons to get married beyond love.
They loved each other. It was nice. Procreation. It's cool. And the wealthy kind of got screwed out of this arena because their marriages were usually contracts and arranged and political. So that was usually the first reason the wealthy were betrothed. So it usually started with like the parents. The kids weren't given any sort of say in who they got to marry. And the parents would be like, this guy over here has some land that I'd love to have in our family. So you 2 are going to marry.
What's not like about her? She has huge tracts of land. That's actually a pretty good rendition of probably what the thinking was back then.
Well, that's why daughters of wealthy noblemen who were like the only children were so sought after. It's because women technically couldn't own it if they own anything unless if they were married to a man.
Huh.
So
Were things ever planned before the kids were born?
no.
Or is it usually like one they're born, they're like, all right, who can we
Usually
pawn
the
them
minute
off
they
to?
pop them out, because the marriage would change depending on if it was a boy or girl.
Yeah.
So with you have different costs.
That would be awkward. We're having a boy. Oh, we're having a girl. Oh, you're having a girl too? But they're supposed to get married.
Well, this will be awkward.
That's what Henry VIII did when Elizabeth was born. He had letters
Don't tell the
written
Pope.
announcing the birth of a prince. And then when she was born, they had to add an ESS.
Wasn't there like an election like years back where they actually they wrote the wrong winner on the papers?
Dewey defeats Truman.
Yeah, that was right.
Yeah. Everybody expected Dewey to win. And there was a strike going on. I literally just read about this. There was a strike going on at the printing press that newspaper was being sent to, so they had to get it in hours ahead of time, and everybody expected Dewey to win, so they just wrote it ahead of time and had it printed out.
See, guys, we're more than just Tudor history.
I'm obsessed with everything about dead people. I like all dead people.
Necromania.
And we've been canceled by nobody, because who's going to cancel
Probably
us?
Fox.
Okay, so for the wealthy, it was all about contracts, and it was bad news to try and have a love match. I think we talked about this once before, when a wealthy father found out his daughter had gotten married without his approval. He called her a bot or a harlot.
How dare you want to have love?
It's not okay, because
Yeah.
there was a lot of money put into these things.
Like today, sometimes it can sound ridiculous, but back then, that's how it was.
It was crazy if you did have a loving marriage. For example,
Seems like half the time that's where anybody's money came from.
Oh, absolutely. And we were just talking about how Mary Boleyn was banished from her family for her second marriage, which was a love match, because it was a landless dude in the country. So
He just owned a bunch of swamps.
so Wales.
She married Shrek.
Somebody once told me.
No.
Emily, we can't afford those rights.
I only
I
said
don't
2
know.
seconds of it.
I don't know. A town near me could for a free
Yeah.
concert.
Yeah, Fisher's was just given a free concert by
Smash Mouth.
Smash Mouth.
I saw them for free.
Why?
Because they were here.
Why would they do that to the people of Fishers?
Okay, so marriage was used by the royalty. They used their kin as political pawns. So if you were related to the king, there had to be royal permission to get married, because he could be using you for political purposes to make alliances.
What?
And
No.
yeah, I know. We talked about.
I feel like we talk about this every fucking episode.
Every
Do
time
we?
Some poor broad getting married off to some douchebag
Yeah.
for land or money.
Yeah, pretty
That
much.
sucks.
And there was steep punishments if you disobeyed. Margaret Clifford was a great niece or something of Henry VIII, and she got married without permission because it was a love match, and she was put in the Tower. And that was Henry's niece. They're not fucking around, because on top of it being a political ploy to create alliances and stuff, it was also potentially treasonous. So let's say that there was a random duke who had a little bit of royal blood but wasn't immediate family, and he married a sister of the king or a niece of the king. Well, then he's potentially trying to become king himself. So it's what they suspected Thomas Seymour was up to when he tried to marry Elizabeth.
Guys, I'm sorry. I just thought of something funny.
Tell me.
Just thinking of marriages and relationships back then, and thinking if they had social media, Henry's relationship status would always be it's complicated.
Yes, that's true. Actually, I've seen somebody who made a Henry VIII Facebook page. Like they photoshopped it. It's not an active page, but they showed what his relationships would look like if seen through his. It was funny. It was funny. So a lot of betrothals happened at a young age. They were usually a couple years old, and they were like, "Hey, you're gonna get married to this guy," and depending on the alliances, they would be broken a lot. All that stuff. But like Catherine of Aragon and Arthur, Henry's older brother, they were betrothed when she was 4, and it lasted until their marriage, which was more weird than not.
That's actually a thing I never actually thought about before, of all these pre-planned marriages, of if they last or not until they actually are. One, you gotta hope the kid lives long enough to make it to that point. And 2, if something happens in between.
Like if the king decides he doesn't like the other country. A lot can
happen in 10, 15 years.
Yeah. And on top of that, women were...
So it's not like having your it's not like just having your life signed away. There's a chance it might not work out.
Yeah, I mean, poor Mary, Henry's daughter, was betrothed like 50 times.
Yeah.
A couple times to her cousin. Ugh.
Like father, like daughter.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time when somebody, like, you were no longer, like, was there like a cutoff time when you're like, okay, yeah, you're 30-something now, we're not going to use you for political marriages or anything like that? Or was it like your whole life pretty much, if you were single?
You could still be matched politically even if you weren't capable of, like if a woman was postmenopausal. Like, Edward IV wanted to marry off his mother-in-law to the King of Scotland because it would have been a political match. I'm pretty sure she was either right before menopause or she was postmenopausal. But, yeah, they were still seen as valuable. Women were just property. They like you know how when a father walks his daughter down the aisle, they say he's giving away the bride? It's because they used to literally give away the property that was the bride. So we've come so far, guys. So we talked about how marriages were for alliances. They also helped build wealth, and it was also for elevating family position. So, for example, Anne Boleyn was almost betrothed to her cousin to settle the issue of the title of an earldom. And then, of course, the Boleyns all did really well when she became queen for a couple years.
What level of cousin are we talking about?
What?
What level of cousin are we talking about? Like first cousin, second cousin?
I think like second cousin.
Okay. Did they ever have any...
It was...
Like...
Go ahead.
No, I thought you were picking up on it, but did they ever hear... So like, oh, that's too close to family.
No. Because Mary was engaged to her cousin, her first cousin, Charles.
Keep it in the family.
Yeah, all you needed was a papal dispensation.
Blue Bloods.
Yeah.
Smurfs.
Well, I think I told you guys last week, the reason the Habsburgs of Spain, the Habsburg family, they bred with each other so much that they ended up with serious dysfunctions. Like, one of them had a jaw that stuck out so far.
The Habsburg jaw.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he couldn't talk. His jaw just stuck out.
Yes. Is that where that stereotype comes from?
Yes.
That protruding lower jaw?
It's because they're inbred. Yeah. So if you ever see somebody with that jaw, maybe get away from them.
I hear a Lannister.
Yes.
Did they ever cut it? I'm sure they cut it off at like maybe half siblings or anything like that.
No.
No?
Well, Henry VIII was going to try and get his bastard son married to his legitimate daughter, Mary.
Did you mention that before?
I think I mentioned it once.
Ugh.
Now, it was one of those things that was just the Pope was desperate for a solution, and Henry was desperate to have an heir. And Henry Fitzroy was a bastard, so he'd have to legitimize him some way, so marrying his daughter would have been one way. So, yeah.
Huh.
They be gross. I mean, you need a papal dispensation.
I imagine royalty and like politicians like planning out how they're going to marry their kids off to other people. Like they're playing with dolls. Like, okay, now you're with this one, and you're with this one, and now you guys smooch. Like
Now
Dark Helmet and
kiss.
Spaceballs.
Yeah, it was pretty nasty. So a lot of money was involved in marriage contracts. There was the dowry, which was money paid by the bride's family to the groom's family.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was
There's
That's a
the
term I
married-in
know.
fee.
yeah, it's like going to it's like buying a new car. There are a bunch of extra fees that you experience.
Can I interest you in any of the extra features? This one has a USB port for charging your phone while you're riding.
This is the iBride 7.
This one has a sunroof and a bike rack on top.
And she can connect to your local home theater system via Bluetooth.
No, literally, look at her mouth. She has blue teeth. It's fucked up.
I think it's from inbreeding.
She was also inbred. We're trying to spread it out to the second cousins this year.
Yeah, this model has some wear on it. I know she's from last year, but
Ew,
she still runs well. Previous owner
Gross.
took good care of her.
Oh my gosh! Now I'm just visualizing like one of those like used car lot commercials, except with the
Tudor
brides.
Come on down to Henry's Used Wives.
That's so depressing, guys.
Has one of the wacky inflatable tube guys in the front.
Wacky inflatable tube guy. So marriage was one of the 7 holy sacraments in the Catholic Church, and it could be as simple as simply holding hands and saying, "I marry you." Like it's super, super
Do
simple.
you? Yeah. Do you? Yeah. Good. Kiss her. You're
A
married.
priest wasn't needed. A witness was helpful but not necessary. And
It
the
was
only
helpful.
reason a witness was helpful is because one of them could, like, after sleeping together, be like, "We didn't actually get married." And they
What a
were like,
weird
"Well, yeah, we
one-night
did." So
stand.
it's he said, she said. So if you have a witness, that helps. But that was actually used conveniently in history. Like Edward IV, he was a couple of kings before Henry. His wife was a commoner, and they wed in secret. And later on, his brother tried saying, well, their children aren't legitimate because they didn't really get married. And it was all kinds of effed up. And apparently
Years
Edward,
later,
he
we
claimed,
didn't really get married.
he claimed Edward IV had actually tricked a bunch of women into sleeping with him by doing that, by taking them and being like, "Let's get married." And then they bang, and then he's like, "Just kidding, off to war." But
To
Richard
those who
III
don't know,
Call me, I'll call you.
to those who don't know, Garrett was ordained
Oh yeah.
from his phone.
I am an ordained minister.
And a
Two men from
my training
Applebee-
inside a
No, no.
Buffalo Wild Wings.
Buffalo
Two men
Wild
from
Wings.
B-dubs don't know this, but they're married.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they're living happily.
I bet they are.
But that
I
whole
think they're separated.
Oh,
sad, that divorce rate, it just rocks you. But that whole declaring they're married to one another, that is something that may have happened between Catherine Howard and the guy she slept around with before she met Henry, Francis Derham. And if they'd actually done that, if they'd actually said we are now married to each other, then her marriage to Henry would have been annulled and she would have been safe, but she kept denying it, so that was not smart.
well, you already realized she
But
wasn't
she was like
very
17.
smart.
She was like 17, poor girl.
Oh, honey.
And it ultimately came down to you needed to have sex to consummate a marriage. And it's possible that Anne Boleyn, she and this guy, Henry Percy, were in love before Henry VIII came along.
Mm.
And they secretly wed. They may have consummated the marriage, although Percy adamantly denied it quite a few times, like first in 1532 and then in 1536.
Well, at the price of his head,
Well,
I'm sure I
in
would too.
1532, it totally made sense for him to deny it. His wife accused him of being pre-contracted to Anne because she wanted an annulment. And he was like, no, we never slept together. And then in 1536, Cromwell went to Percy and he goes, hey, Henry wants to annul his marriage to Anne. We need you to say you slept with her. And he was like, no, but we didn't. He swore on like a holy sacrament that they didn't. So they probably didn't. But those were like the pretty loosey-goosey type marriages, and they ended up getting the church ended up getting stricter about that because they didn't want people getting married to just bang and then be like, we're not really married, ha 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 ha.
This seal has been packed.
This pact has been sealed.
That's
This seal has been packed.
That's not what I heard.
This seal has been packed. There are foam peanuts in his box and holes for so he can breathe.
I'm thinking horrible things. So.
Don't think horrible things. Okay, so if you were
This
going
is
to
a
get...
family-friendly show, Jeff.
Yes.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Fuck yeah, it is.
All right,
Okay.
gather around, shitlings.
All right, so a church marriage, there were very strict rules. You couldn't get married on any holy days. So like Christmas, Easter, Lent, anything
but
like
there
that.
like,
a billion.
yeah.
You had to attend church for 3 holy days leading up to the wedding. And
Creasters.
yeah. And for each holy day you went, the priest had to say, hey, these guys are going to get married. Does anybody know a reason they shouldn't? So that was the whole speak now or forever hold your peace, except they had 3 holy day opportunities to do that.
Did he give them like little punch out cards to make sure they kept their 3 days?
Yes. Yeah, that's how that was
Last
invented.
chance, guys. If you really think these two should not get married, anybody here, come on.
That was actually done to stop secret marriages, but, they still happened. Okay, so this is the way the wedding ceremony worked.
I mean, if you were like 2 young, stupid kids in love, like, would you really care whether or not the church recognized your marriage?
I mean, yes and no.
Depends on
I
how
guess it
super
depends
religious
about
you
you
were.
No, it didn't depend on that. Like, you could only it wasn't like today where you're married by the church and then you're also married by law. Like, for example, before gay marriage was legal, they could have gone to a church that would marry them and gotten married and done the whole religious ceremony, but the law wouldn't have recognized them as legally married until a couple of years ago. It's like back in that time period, back in the Tudor times, it was like if you were married by the law, then you were married by the church. They were not separated at all. And like the idea of those two being separate entities was just beyond comprehension, Yes. Okay, I'm done lecturing. Okay, do you want to hear how marriage actually worked?
Sure.
Okay, so the couple would go to the church and they'd be greeted at the door by the priest, and he would do a cool thing where he's like, hey, do you guys want to be married? And they would say yes. And then the groom would give the priest a ring, and it would be blessed on a Bible, and then the ring would be placed on the 4th finger of the right hand, and they placed it on that finger because they believed that a vein led from that finger directly to the heart. It has like a fancy Latin name.
That.
It has it's not really true, but it's got a fancy Latin name. I just can't remember what it is. So
Hardy veins.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point,
yep.
they would be officially married, except there was still so much more to do. So then they would move up to the church. They would sing psalms, or they would read psalms. There would be prayer said over the couple, and then the couple would kneel at an altar. And this sounds like the beginning of a sacrifice. They would be covered in a veil.
A veil. Okay.
They would be covered in the night veil. They would be covered in a veil, and then they would be prayed over again, and then the veil would be removed, and they would be pronounced married. But it wasn't over yet, because then, while the couple would go and celebrate with their big-ass party, if they could have one, and the priest would go with the couple to their marriage bed and bless the bed. Yeah. So I was rereading one of my biographies, and I read some interesting. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this correctly. It's on a Kindle, so it wasn't easy to flip through and confirm the information. But apparently, the bride and the groom would have their stockings removed in the bedchamber by their groomsmen and bridesmaids. And then they would throw the stockings at the couple as they laid in bed. and who if a stocking landed on the groom or the bride, the person who threw the stocking would be the next to get married.
Okay.
And that's, guys, that's not even the weirdest thing thrown at the couple.
No. I don't. Go
That
on.
wasn't even the weirdest thing.
I like you had the thing thrown at the
no,
couple.
it was very specific. So when the couple left the church, people would throw shoes at them.
What?
Like,
It sucks because you have to go and find your shoe and you're done.
yeah, it sucks for the person throwing the shoe, not the couple getting hit by shoes.
Oh, they had it coming. Like,
People just throwing their dirty ass shoes and socks at people trying to do it.
I mean,
what the
sometimes they
fuck?
would throw them at the couple, or sometimes they would throw them at the carriage as the carriage was being pulled away. Like,
his carriage is being pelted with shoes. You just hear a bunch of thuds outside.
that's where that might be where the tradition of
Oh,
tying.
honey, it's so romantic.
They're literally tying the knots.
Okay, so I gotta tell you guys about the vows that were said during the
God.
ceremony.
I
So-
hope we get to be pelted by shoes forever.
I promise to pelt you with shoes.
I promise to catch a shoe for you, my dear.
Okay.
Watch out for those heels.
Oh, okay, so they each said their vows to each other, and they were essentially the same. But the ones the thing I found online when I was researching this said Henry would have made the following vow to his wives. Hold on.
I promise you'll be the last.
No. I, Henry, take thee, insert name.
Henry, you're supposed to say her name.
What?
You don't read that part. You say what her name is.
Oh, Catherine.
No, that was the last one.
Anne.
Good job.
I didn't even get past the half of the first line. I, Henry, take thee, insert name, to my wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health,
With a head or without a head.
till death us do part, and
Or just you.
and thereto I plight thee my troth.
What?
I plight thee my troth. And then
What?
I don't know what that means.
I plight thee my troth.
I'm just waiting for Jeff to tell me that. Like, do you have any idea how much I've been waiting 8.5 years to hear that from you, Jeff?
I just
Make
wanna
an
plight
honest
that
woman out
trough.
of her. Plight her your trough, damn it.
Well, first I need to throw socks and shoes at her first, apparently.
Next time I'm over, I'm just gonna like sneak in while you guys are sleeping and just chuck my shoes at you.
Consummate. Bam. Consummate.
It's
Bam.
official.
Oh man. Okay, so those are the men's vows.
You know what? It would be great. You know, it'd be great.
What?
Just we do a series of vignettes on YouTube of just like silly customs from the day, but
Oh, I
Done
would do
what they
today.
that.
look like in modern time.
Oh, my God.
I'll do that.
Oh man, that'd be great.
Okay, so the women's
And then,
vows
and then
were.
you pop in, and then you explain what's going on.
I think that'd be hilarious. Let's do it. Except, can the
Okay, let's
acting
put
be
it up
as
on
bad as
Vine.
it is in the Ghostbusters commercial? Ah, it's those darn ghosts. It has to be that bad.
Oh, I forgot about that commercial. It's great. I love Ghostbusters too. I don't care what anyone says.
Okay, so the women's vows would be very similar, except they'd say, "And I pledge to be bonny and buxom in bed and board," and that essentially said, like, you're always welcome in my bed.
With shoes and socks.
No, they throw those first. Okay, and then when the ring was placed on the bride's finger, the groom would say, "With this ring I thee wed, with my body I thee worship, and with all my worldly goods I thee endow. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen."
I'm gonna say, with this swing I thee red, and with my body I thee bed. Bow, chicka,
Garrett, when you get married, make those your vows.
Oh, I will.
I'm excited. So, okay. The church believed that, still taught today, no banging until you're married. But the church, and I think we've talked about this, they also thought that women constantly craved sex. And they thought that if women didn't have enough sex, they would get sick. And I could support that kind of thinking. But they also thought that being married was a way of keeping her sexual desires under control, because then she could...
This is before they invented the marital aid.
Yeah.
Actually, probably not.
Okay, so...
Because remember, there was that one thing there. Was it back in the early 20th century? They were like, women are hysterical. There's one way to treat it.
And they invented the vibrator. Thank you, doctors.
They invented the vibrator.
I thought it was a back massager.
No, it was
invented
literally
by Dr.
used.
Vincent Brader.
Okay, so this is what happened. Another history lesson. The vibrator was invented because doctors used to manually stimulate the lady area because they thought that that's what caused hysteria, was it just needed to be stimulated. Well, then the doctors...
Strangely, they were all dentists back in the day.
So then the doctor's hands would get sore. So one of them invented the vibrator.
It's just like on a crankshaft.
He's like, oh, there's got to be an easier way.
His hand is cramped in a claw.
The TV announcer says, well, now there is.
Oh my God. Can you imagine the black and white infomercial of
my hand keeps cramping from pleasuring these women.
But they don't think of it as pleasuring. They're like, I'm curing these women, but my hand is suffering.
Or it's like when those shitty infomercials, like, has this ever happened to you? And he just keeps fucking it up.
He pokes her in the eye.
And the big red X disappears over the screen.
He's got he's trying to hold a bunch of groceries in one hand. They all just spill out. And he's like, oh man.
My darn hand.
Spills everywhere. Okay.
Guys, I love you. That was your other history lesson for today. So, talk a little bit about what they wore. I have a little piece that you guys are going to love. So, the bride would wear just whatever gown. The white thing was only brought into fashion by Queen Victoria when she wore white. You could wear white. It was incredibly expensive because it was hard to keep it clean. So, brides would kind of just wear their best gown. They avoided the color green because they thought it was bad luck.
Those damn Irish.
If you were royal, your dress was usually sewn with gold or silver thread, and your dress would be velvet or satin. Commoners would wear wool or linen.
Or whatever they could find.
Leaves. The groom, this is what you guys are going to love. The groom would wear a doublet, breeches, hose, and of course the ever-present codpiece. Do you want to know what cod meant in the 1500s?
Not a fish.
Not a fish. It meant scrotum. So can you imagine wearing underwear and calling it scrotum covers?
You don't?
I do not.
Huh.
No.
Yeah, Jeff and I do that all the time.
And
I just go to Walmart. I'm like, hey, I need some scrotum
Could I
covers.
please get something for my scrotum? They send you to the pharmacy and you're like, no. No. Actually, I found out where the cod piece came from. So
some guy got kicked in the balls and they're like,
no,
I really need something here.
No.
Never again.
Henry VIII ran out of pockets. He experienced the plight all current women do. Couldn't fit his fucking cell phone in his pocket. No. Okay, so the way men's fashion worked was they didn't wear real pants. They had their hose, which were...
That's right, they did.
And they might have had breeches, but their jackets were typically used to cover their cod.
Their scrotums.
So jackets ended up getting shorter and shorter. Fashion was just raise these, raise the hemline.
That's scrotum.
It was like the
and
flapper
the nuns at the wedding
dresses.
would say, nope, 2 inches.
It was like the flapper dresses of the 1500s. So the
That's where the
cod
name
piece
came from.
Yes. So the cod piece
I like
was
to
invented.
imagine just men's jackets keep getting shorter and shorter, and they got to put their arms down the side, and somebody's got to measure it to make sure it's not too short. For Jesus.
Exactly. Yeah, so the codpiece was invented to avoid the scandal of your dangly scrotum hanging out.
I kind of laughed that pants
Just wear
was
some
that
baggier
difficult of a
pants.
concept to have.
Man, if only I had something to cover both legs. Yeah, so that's what they wore. Okay, so as Henry VIII taught us, not all marriages were good ones.
What?
Sometimes you wanted to
No.
separate or divorce your spouse. You don't separate them, you separate from them. Please don't tear apart your spouses.
Well, Henry did.
Shit!
He did both.
He separated from, and divorced them. Okay, so
All right, we got to change the tagline for the show now.
okay, so you had to go to the church and say, "Yo, this is what's happening. We need a divorce, an annulment." So there were 3 reasons that you'd get annulled, or you'd get your marriage annulled. Either you were insane when you got married, you were too closely related,
I didn't think that was an issue.
the marriage was Henry VIII tried to make it an issue. The marriage was never consummated, or the husband was impotent. Now, I know we've talked about this before, but I found out a fun tidbit, so I want to talk about it again. So if your marriage was not consummated,
They didn't throw enough shoes at you.
and yes, there was one too few shoes.
Give us our shoes back, the sham marriage.
God, I can't get it up.
So for a wife to say, "Hey, my husband can't get it up," it had to be proved at a church court.
Yes, you did tell us about
Yes.
this, but please
Okay.
continue because it's wonderful.
So there would be so they'd go to the church, they'd go to the court, they'd be watched by doctors and priests and all that kind of thing, other nobles, and they would have to get it on in public to prove that he can get it up. So one wife accused her husband of not being able to get it up.
You know, I have pee anxiety, and Emily, as a woman, I don't know if you know what this is, but Jeff, you might be able to back me
I know
up
what
here.
pee anxiety
Well,
is.
If you got to go to the urinal, guys, you got to go to the urinal, and there's a guy standing next to you. It can be difficult sometimes to get it going.
Well, one guy actually dealt with that, and it was very unfortunate for him. But this is the 1600s, so it's not quite the 1500s, but it's close enough. After a husband was able to prove that he was capable, a surgeon went up and inspected the wife, and he said that the wife had lost her virginity by, quote, swearing to Christ that she was more open than a funnel. This is the 1600s, guys. And in fact, these
Sick
things were
burn.
so common in the 14th and 15th century. 1/3 of all cases brought to the church in York were regarding divorce. Oh, and one more thing about the claiming impotence thing. People would go and place bets. People,
that's wonderful.
For entertainment, they would go to these courts, watch what was going on, and place bets on the outcome.
Hey, honey, what do you want to do tonight? I don't know. You want to go see someone get it on and see if you can't get it up? Sounds fine to me.
That
yeah.
sounds like a good time. You bring the wine. I'll bring the
Oh.
cheese.
He really enjoys a good comeback
Popcorn,
story.
get your popcorn.
Um,
I imagine it's just like in an arena. There's people in stadium seating.
And
The
in this
Coliseum.
corner,
Beer.
yeah.
The guy checking at the end is like.
what if you find
just
out
like
he
a
actually
referee.
gets it hard if he is being watched? Like that's the only way he can get to work.
Then his
He's
marriage
like,
is
oh wow, this is.
Then his
what
marriage
you
is
do?
valid, and she can't divorce him.
Can only have sex if people are watching.
Okay, so if the church wouldn't grant a divorce, they would sometimes allow a couple to live separately, like if they just really friggin' hated each other and they just couldn't get remarried. They'd be like, you go there, just stay like that. So, then there's a little bit of legal crap that happened before marriages happened. So, Pre-contracts were what I said earlier, where the bride and groom said, "I marry you." That is some problem. Dowry money came from the bride to the groom's family. Jointure was land or money given to the couple when they got married. So, like, Henry VIII gave George Boleyn a friggin' palace or something. And then women needed to have really nice fathers to benefit from marriage if they ended up as widows. Because women were owned, they couldn't inherit anything unless the will specifically states it. So if her husband dies and he doesn't say she's allowed X house and Y amount of money, then she doesn't get anything. So if her father watches out for her, then he arranges it in the marriage contract that if the woman ends up a widow, certain things have to happen. So, for example, Jane Boleyn's father worked out for her that if George died before her, her father-in-law had to give her money, a certain amount of money each year to support her. And then there were dower lands, and that's when a third of the income from estates were given to the widow. But then it got complicated if, like, there are multiple marriages and people dying all the time. And so sometimes they'd have to fight for the third of land, and then people hated women, so that didn't always happen.
How did most of these upper end people make their money?
Ooh, that's a good question, Jeff.
Because
by marrying other people.
Yeah, that's how I feel like there are most of this.
Okay, so
like, I understand some royalty because back then it's like the tax system kind of thing a lot of times. Like,
so the tax system, that was only, so you had two, if you were a king or, yeah, if you were a king, you had two banks. You had the government money, and that was taxes, and that was to pay for armies, stuff like that. Then you'd have private lands that you would own. So the way you wanted to own land, that was your best way of getting money. And it wasn't just because you could have stuff planted and then sell the plants at all. It was you had tenants and they paid rent to you. So essentially you were just big ass landlords.
Okay.
So there were some lands that were so huge and you got so much money because so many people lived there that you were like the Duke of Buckingham was the second richest man in the kingdom after Henry VIII until Henry chopped his head off. So that was
I like that palace. I think I'll take it.
Mine. So owning land was the best way to make money. So that's how a lot of the noble people made money.
Okay.
That's why it was always a huge deal whenever Henry gave away land, because he's essentially saying, you're getting this cool house, but you're also going to get all the money that comes from these as well. So that was the number one to make money. And then other people, like the lower class people, they would make money as, merchants, and farmers would sometimes be able to sell their stuff and beer and wheat, stuff like that.
Yeah, I understand a lot of the workers. There's always you hear about like all these like royalties and nobles people
because
who
you're
are
like, how do you just have
they
money?
just constantly just travel and have parties and gatherings with all these other noble people. It's
okay,
like
so
showing off money.
Henry VII was a miser. He hoarded money. He taxed the shit out of the kingdom. He avoided making many nobles because he was able to claim all that income. So when Henry VIII became the king, he was loaded. He had a ton of money. And then because he went to so many wars and he partied hardy, he ended up losing a ton. So, yeah, if you wanted money back then, try and get an estate. That's why, and part of the different offices that you could, like a marquis or a marquess, whatever, an earl, a duke, they all came with different like portions of land.
Okay.
Like it's very unlikely that an earl would make more money than a duke.
So yeah, pretty much land was just the same equivalent as just getting paid money back
Pretty
then.
much.
So
It was your income. It was your income.
Now that makes more sense now why so many marriages are based around you're inheriting land.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So like and it's weird because you can almost see them like it's not so much about what land I personally own, it's about the land my family will get because I mean, sometimes they'd benefit and get the land directly from a marriage contract, but usually it was like, well, this is joining together our two families, and so the land will combine into one. So, and then, yeah, that was pretty much it. So,
Okay.
Any other questions? Cricket?
What about wedding parties?
Oh, I didn't talk about that. I actually had some stuff written down. Okay, so there was usually a big banquet held afterwards, and it would just be like feasting pretty much. And after they had the shoes thrown at them, they would go and have some really good food. And I think we talked about it in the food episode. Garrett, you missed that, but they had like beer and wine and no water.
Okay, I like those.
And, venison and mutton and some of the normal food we had today, but then they'd also have things like peacock and pigeon. And there's something I've seen a lot called capons, CAPONS. And I found out tonight it is a castrated rooster. I don't know why the rooster had to be castrated.
It makes them plumpier.
Maybe the fear made him taste better.
You can really taste the fear. It just
It
as
improves the quality of its flesh for food.
And it would be one of those things where like all these courses would come out, but like you obviously couldn't have a lot of everything. You would just take little bits of everything. It's kind of like a Brazilian steakhouse. And guests would usually eat with their fingers. Forks didn't come around until the 1600s. Except the guests would bring their own knives. And I just really like the idea of sending out a wedding invitation and say, bring your own knife.
you're allowed one guest and a knife.
Yeah. So there'd usually be feasting and dancing and music afterwards. Very similar to what we do. Just, more deer and
then the bride smashing cake in the groom's face. All those hallmarks.
and
we
then
love.
Henry chops her head off.
That was my cake.
They did have something called a bride cake.
Mm.
So cake was around. They had a ton of sweet courses. Like they had spun sugar desserts and stuff like that. Like the stuff, it sounds amazing whenever I read about it.
And then there's just the normal bowl of sugar they probably just ate straight out of.
Probably. And then cheese was like a dessert thing too.
I see it.
So they partied. They partied hardy, and then they were taken to the marriage bed, and they had their socks thrown at them, and they had to consummate their marriage.
And they also had their ye old royal DJ also running the dance floor.
Ooh, what's this DJ's name? DJ Garrett, you're good at this kind of stuff.
DJ Bubonic.
Ooh, I like that one.
Dance so hard your limbs will fall.
A fever you can't. Oh my God. He plays a fever you can't sweat out all the time.
Oh my God. That's how that one happened. That one illness
That
happened
one village.
where they couldn't stop dancing.
DJ Bubonic, please stop. He's just playing Panic at the Disco like all night long. I chime in with that. Haven't you people ever heard of?
You know, I listened to that album for the first time like last week.
I saw that. What'd you think of it?
I liked it. I was a big snob about shit like that. I was like, that's emo music.
never
I listen to
felt
cool music
emo
like
to
Linkin
me.
Park. That's not emo.
It never felt
And-
emo to me. Like I listened to some emo music in high school, like The Used and My Chemical Romance and Hawthorne Heights.
Oh man.
Oh my God. Okay, I get out of here with that shit.
Right. But I also listened to like Fall Out Boy, which is not emo. And then they're like poppy. They're too poppy to be emo.
They're pop punk,
And then-
which I didn't realize was the thing existed until I started working at my other job.
But then
Because
like
that's all my fucking coworkers
Panic at the
listen to is
Disco
pop punk and
never
emo.
felt emo at all. Ever.
It's the aesthetic of how they dress and
It is.
like having song titles that are entire
A
sentences
fever you
long.
can't or like I Write Sins Not Tragedies and
Yeah.
all that stuff. I mean,
all that shit turned me off, but listening to it now, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
have you listened? You should listen to their newer stuff, too, because it's pretty similar. I got Jeff
that's what
hooked
I
on
hear.
one of their albums.
Death of a Bachelor is really good.
Listen to Death of a Bachelor.
Will do.
That's a good one. And all of our listeners, go listen to that.
There's our random plug for the week.
Yeah. And fun fact, Henry VIII invented pop-punk music.
Yeah.
He is Pete Wentz.
He was the first to, like...
No, he's Stump.
Yeah,
if he's
the,
anyone.
Yeah, he's the singer.
Patrick Stump, yeah. He
With
was
that
the first
goofy
to start
hat.
putting on eyeliner and doing the
He wore
the
ties over
fringe.
his doublet. It's
God, I've seen Fall Out Boy twice, and neither time to actually want to see them.
That's right. You just wanted to play Nintendo Wii.
Yeah, that's really exactly what it was. It's-
the days of our youth. Anyway.
As the hourglass...
Turns?
I
what?
can't remember the whole thing. It's as the world turns, as sand falls from the hourglass or something like that. Days of Our Lives is the hourglass.
These
right?
are their
These
stories.
are the Tudors of our life.
I want to see that, a soap opera version of the Tudors, but like old school, like early '90s soap opera that
With
you know,
weird
we'd all come
lighting
home
to
from
it.
school and they'd be on and we'd be like,
Absolutely.
ugh.
That's it, guys. Is there anything else
Hooray.
from Jeff or Garrett?
No, I think that was good. It was interesting. I know it feels like there was a lot of ground that we retread with, because we talk about marriage a lot. 'cause,
Definitely,
Marriage is a lot of
definitely.
big
But
deal.
I
A lot of
felt like
history.
it was important to cover it on its own.
You didn't let me finish my thought.
Sorry. Go ahead, Your Majesty.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we cover a lot of this stuff in other episodes because, you know, royalty and politicians and these people in power, they're all about, you know, marrying people off and getting married and creating alliances. But you went more in depth to it.
Perfect.
And explained the process, and you broke it down in bigger detail and in smaller detail, and I liked it.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
Mhm.
To our listeners.
Whenever you host it, I always like it.
Aw, Garrett, you're so sweet. We should
I
do another
try.
episode where you host it and not have one where we both research the same thing.
I'm sweet like sugar salad.
Yeah, you. Perfect. Guys, find us on Twitter at Tudor Know Her. Get in touch with us. Chat with me. I'll talk to you about Tudor things anytime you want. Ask us questions if you have a question about one of our episodes that you haven't had answered, or episode suggestions. Just reach out to me on that. I have it on virtually all day. And
definitely reach out to Emily. Every time she gets like a really nice message or like somebody asking, she's like, "Oh my God, somebody
get
just
so
talked to me
excited.
about Tudor stuff," and I love it.
it's just
she
so
loves
cool
it.
having people who love what I love reach out to me. And like, I seriously feel like I've gotten some friends from our listeners. So,
For me, I start recognizing a lot of
yeah,
our fans' names
it's such a cool
on
community.
Facebook. I'm
It's
like,
such a
so
cool
and so
community.
liked it. Oh, that person liked it.
You're the regulars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It still blows me away, guys, that everybody likes us as much as they do.
And we keep seeing the numbers, and it's
I know.
blowing up.
You
That's
guys,
great.
You guys amaze us. We are so happy. You can also find us on Facebook at just the page Tudor I Hardly Know Her. We share fun facts, polls, stuff like that. So you can check us out on either of those. And that's it for this week, I think.
Review us on iTunes.
Review us on
Yes.
iTunes, please. Yes. We love seeing those reviews. They're awesome.
And it really helps us with exposure and showing up on the iTunes charts.
Oh, yeah.
And giving us those good reviews.
Yes, please.
Share us. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Tell your family.
Spread the word. Spread the love. The Tudor love.
Spread the word like the bubonic plague.
Exactly, like DJ Bubonic.
All right, guys.
I think that's all we got.
That
so
is.
yeah, until next time. Is
Div-
anything else?
Nope. Divorced, beheaded,
Beheaded,
died.
died. Divorced,
beheaded,
beheaded,
survived.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Does that ever sync up?